is because you know I always start on time. That's why you're here first. Wherever you are, you're the first one in. And I'm here. I'm on time. This is Mikey Wine here. You guys know me as Gundamonium Works. We're live. This is part 10. Hey, what's up, Nick? Mr. Left with Questions is in the house first. There's another person watching but not chiming in on the chat, so we don't know who's there yet. If you want to, say hello. We'll say hi, and we'll say hi at the end of the show, too. We'll say thank you, I should say. So, yeah, this is part 10. The M61A5, 135th scale Bandai main battle tank, and we are doing more with it. I didn't get a whole lot done. I did some more chipping this week, but I didn't get the whole tank done. So rather than bore everybody with the same thing of chipping like we did last week, I still have some to do, but I'm going to move on a section that I've kind of got done so I can start doing some of the streaking effects, some of the rust. I'm going to use some pastels. And then I've got to get into some of the pigments, but I've got to get the rest of the chipping done first because that's got to go underneath the grime that's going to go on top of that. So old school's in. Hey, George, how you doing? How you doing? Good to see you too. So let's just go down here to the hello. Let's go down here to the bench. So I got my Tamiya Weathering Masters here. Going to use them in quite a few of these actually. Today I do have some AK products here, enamel-based streaking effects, some pigments, pigments from AK as well as pigments from AIM products, but I don't know if we're going to get to any of that today. And right now, I'm just going to be working on kind of getting this side finished. Okay, the last week I did a lot of chipping on this side piece, and I kind of blended it into the top fender here, as well as a lot on the top, and I'll go into a little bit. There's not a ton of chipping on the top here. There really just wouldn't be, except for maybe on some edges where crew might be walking across the top. There might be a little bit there, but there is some in certain places for a reason, and I'll go into that in a little bit more detail. That's a crowded bench. Yeah, it is kind of when everything starts to get, as the project goes on, it starts to get closer and closer to me because I got to have space for the laptop and everything else. But I will adjust and move things around. So let me go down to Giovanni's in. How you doing, Giovanni? Good to see you, as always, too. So let's go down a little closer here. All right. So the exhaust pieces here, I have not glued them down yet because I wanted to make sure I could weather them and add some bluing to the exhaust nozzles before I finally face them down. So this is kind of an example of that. This is one of the exhaust nozzles. You can see a little bit of bluing on the tip, and then there's also some sepia right behind that. So a little bit of red of a hot metal reddish color, and then underneath the actual base color from Mr. Color is burnt iron. So it kind of is a good combination to do that. And then I can also blend those because those are the pastels. Those are everything on these Tamiya Weathering Masters. So let me put this side piece on just temporarily, and you kind of see the chipping that we got done. A lot of it got done last week. I did some more this week, but it is a very tedious process, and this is a big kit, a lot of surface area. Looks like mine. Oh, your crowded workbench. I said I start off clean. Everything gets pushed back, and it starts off nice and clean, and then as the project goes on, just the clutter starts to gather. Occasionally, I'm going to go back and clean, kind of organize everything over again. So let's go show you the chipping here. So we got the front of the tank. There's quite a bit on the suspension and some of those areas, underneath, like the belly here, where you get a lot of scratches and stuff from just ground level type debris and stuff rolling over who knows what. And then, of course, the front of the fenders here. And then I've also started to add some rust. You can see the streaks there. I was kind of playing around with how dark I want to make that. So I'm going to continue doing that tonight. I do have to do a lot of pigments inside here. That's why I haven't attended. I got to put all the wheels and tracks on. So I got to get the chipping done on the bottom. I'm not sure how much I'm going to do because you're really not going to see this, but unless, even George has mentioned it in some of his live streams, is like, if somebody actually picks it up and looks underneath, they shouldn't be, but I might be one of those people that wants to do all the weathering completely, just in case, in case it does get seen by who knows what. But so just starting to get some of those weathering effects on, especially on the hinges here, because all these armor plates have hinges. They're made to open up for serviceability of the tank. So there's going to be a lot of extra chipping and stuff around the areas that move a lot, and again, some of this will also be toned down quite a bit when I put the rest of the pigment on and some of the dusting and stuff like that. Right now it looks pretty stark as far as like the chipping. It looks pretty dark, but it will get toned down as time goes on here. Put a big fuck you on the bottom. Yeah, you were saying somebody else did that, didn't they? So one of the other things I was talking about last week was thinking about, when you're doing chipping or something like that, you want to think about where it is and why it would be there. You got to make sure that it blends into the whole. Try to make it as realistic as possible is what I'm getting at. So one of the things that I've noticed was these cables. Okay, let me see which one goes on here. Let me just move this down, get a little more centered. Okay, so this cable, I'm just going to place this in. These are those tow cables. So this cable goes on the side over here. All right, and then it goes around and plugs in right back here on this hole. Okay, so I will eventually tack these down too alongside. Of course, I've got to weather these too. But what I was talking about, what I was getting at, was where you see where this cable goes over the fender. I wanted to make sure there was chipping right there because, as you take these things on and off, especially just driving down the street, it's going to be rubbing. These tow cables are going to be rubbing on these certain areas. Even in the back here, you can see where this cable hangs over this lip. So I added some chipping there. That way, to me, it looks a little bit more realistic. Those areas are going to be in contact with this cable more often along this edge, like right here, along the back edge of this step. And then when I'm going to tack these down, they will be held in place right here by these two brackets. And there's chipping there as well. So I put the cables on and was kind of keeping an eye on where they lay, so I know exactly kind of where I need to put chipping. I might even do some across the bottom here where this cable is laying on the deck, but maybe not a whole lot. But there will be some. There is some here because obviously those are the areas where those things are going to rub, especially when they're being removed or put back in place after whatever use they needed for. And I did the same thing on this side. So you can see some chipping here on the edge because that cable will come right across here and then go right across this step and right into this area here, right behind the fender. So looking at it from the side, and you see this area right here where the cable kind of pops up. So there's quite a bit of chipping right in that area, just because that's where it's going to rub. So that's kind of thing, the thought process of just putting a little bit of thought into where you're putting the chipping, where you're doing the weathering, and why, to make it as believable as possible. And I also talked about trying not to get carried away with too much of it. So I really had to kind of rein myself in a little bit. So I started doing quite a bit under here, and I was going to do the same thing on the top. And I thought, well, there really wouldn't be as much on top. There will be some from, like I said, crew and stuff like that walking around, but it's not going to be as heavy as down here by where the tracks are. So that's why most of the damage you'll see is around areas that will be low to the ground, rocks and things, or rolling over debris. I mean, we've all seen the anime. These things are abused. So Just flipping this around. You kind of see. So I will end up doing some across here probably, just because I think the tracks and stuff, and some across the bottom as well. But just to overall complete the overall picture. And then I also did the rear door. This came out kind of nice. Is these are big release handles here, and then you got the seam down the center. That's where these two halves split apart and open, and there's a big seam here. So, of course, around those edges and where those panels meet, that's where you're going to have chipping. And then under here as well, this is where the separation is. Oops, right here. So on the corners, I've still got to do all the chipping back here too, and then of course work my way from forward to back. But that's kind of where we're at. So I'm going to move this aside just a little bit so I can work on this side piece. I might just flip this around and take this off. I'm still going to add, I got to add some pastels and stuff to the top here, but that's going to be done later. So what I'm doing right now is just working on this. It's a little bit closer view. And you got the two steps here on the sides, and this step here, these two steps back here. So there's all going to be streaking and stuff going down, and I'm just going to start with the basic stuff and do it with the pastels, and then I can do more stuff with the liquid stuff later if I want to. Question. George has a question here. Let's see. Let me put that on screen. Hey, where did it go? My God, I went to click on it and everything moved. Here we go. Was the tow cable included with the model? No. Yes, it was. It was included, but I had to cut them to a certain length. They had a little measured out thing on the sheet, on the instruction sheet, and then these little brackets, or the little hooks that hold it in place, came with it too. So I had to paint those and then glue this thread. It was just a long piece of this, kind of like a thin rope, and so yeah, that's a cool thing. One other thing before I get too deep in here is I had a little bit of a mail call show up. I had a friend of mine the other day who was called me, and he messaged me, and he was saying, "Hey, I'm at this museum, and they sell model kits here. Do you want any?" He showed me some pictures. And what up, Ken? Ken's in the house. Hi, Ken. How's it going, bud? So he said, I started asking the prices, and they were just outrageously high priced. I went on eBay, and I found the same model for way less. And so I left it at that. I really wasn't going to buy anything. I just said, no, it's too expensive, and I don't need another tank model or something like that right now. Then I get a message from the seller, and he's giving me an offer to buy this one kit that he's got. And I was like, all right, I couldn't pass it up for the price. So here we go. Actually, let me just go back to this view here. You can see the whole box. So I got another Abrams with the mine plow on the front. Let's say it's the 1/35 scale Tamiya. So it's essentially the same Abrams model. There is a little bit of difference with the mine plow. They've got, of course, the European paint scheme, and I've got the standard desert scheme. So some different, a little bit different setup. We'll see how that turns out. Yeah, see how when's I do that. Also, the V markings on the road wheels are water slides. You're talking about wait. V markings on the road wheels. Oh, you talking about these V markings? Or what do you mean on the road wheels? Are you talking about on the side wheel covers? I gotcha. I didn't read the whole line. Yes, they were water slides. Yeah, these 4 decals, there's 2 on each side. Those were water slides. I had to cut this one in. I'll go back to the close up here so we can get a little closer. So on the front one, I had to actually cut it in and fit it onto that step. So that was a little bit of a challenge to place it, because there's a big knob here where these steps kind of snap in, and so trying to place a flat water slide on there it just wanted to go all over the place. So I had to cut it, lay it down, cut it again, and fit those pieces in. this is what it looks like without any chipping done so far. So yeah, part of that decal went on the step, and then the other two pieces went on the actual side cover. Thank you. Appreciate that. It was kind of a pain. Because again, like I said, there's a big old knob sticking up, and you can't use any amount of softener to try to get it to go around that. So I had to kind of place it on there, see where I needed to cut it. Because fortunately, what I did is I painted these side pieces with the shelves on, or with the steps on there. So when you remove them, there was like an outline. It was basically a footprint of where that step was. So that gave me a guide on where to cut it. So I just used those lines in the primer. It was basically the black primer underneath that was still visible. And I just used that as a stencil to go, okay, I got to make a cut here. I got to make a cut here. And then I put the piece on and placed that piece of decal onto that step, and then just did the normal softener and clear coat and all that stuff to lock it in place. Yeah, still kind of a pain a little bit, but nonetheless came out good. And I haven't done any chipping to the turret yet. The turret is also a complete unit now. The barrels are glued in place. And if you remember when I was assembling this, there's a pin, or kind of a big pin that goes in between these two, so these barrels move at the same time. They move together. It broke off in, who knows where it broke, but it was broken in the kit, and I had to actually pin it and glue it, and I did that. But through moving this thing around, it looks like my pin is still in place, but the glue came loose. So now my barrels move independently. So I was thinking that might be something to do if anybody ever thinks about when they build this, is just cutting that adjoining pin in the center, still allowing it to work as a pivot point, but separating the two so they work, as independent. So now I can actually raise one barrel, not a lot, but I can raise it slightly different, from the other side. So they're not attached anymore, but that was just surely by accident. Let me get rid of this menu pop up here. Okay, so yeah, I put on the bracket here on the back for the light machine gun that's going to go on here. It looks like my post has come off again. This has been a really difficult thing to keep glued because everything kind of fits. I've got to re-glue that. No big deals. That's easy fix. But the hatch is on. The mount is on for the 50 cal. That will go on after. That'll probably go on last once I finish all the painting. I still got to do paint the ammo boxes and the magazines. Everything's going to be painted up. I got the lenses in place. Those are all done. The green windows are all in place. You can see those around the perimeter and then in the front. But we'll do a little bit of chipping in certain areas on that, primarily probably around where crew would walk, and of course along the probably a lot more on the stowage area, but I'm not going to add too much there. It'll be mostly just making it grimy and dirty. There will be some soot probably done on these vents here. They look like some kind of an exhaust vent to me, so I think that would be appropriate to have some kind of a dark soot exhaust. Anywho, I'm going to take this off and remove this away again. Actually, I think I'll move this over here. Hopefully it doesn't mess with my screen. My laptop's kind of like an extra storage area. As long as I don't touch the virtual mouse pad, I won't have any problems. Let's see. I still got a cable there. I'll just leave this one here. All right, so we're working on this piece. And I was using straight up rust. Now, these are just makeup applicators I bought because the ones that come with these get worn out pretty quickly. You can buy new ones, but these are just as good. Actually, that one's not the one I was using. Is this the one? Oh, maybe it was. Yeah, it was. And I'm just going to be adding some streaking here to where some of this chipping is. And I'm using the edge just so I can get a thin line. If I wanted to more, blend it, then I'll go to the flat side of this pad. So I'm just light pressure. Just creating vertical streaks down the edge. I can also do some of these areas like this. This is a low point on the side panel. So dirt and water and things are going to naturally run down these areas. Now this would be more of a straight line. These might run at an angle because of the shape of the line. So just putting a little bit of extra thought into the direction of these to make sure that they're more believable, This is set B, which has snow, soot, and rust. I've got A through D. There's only 4 that I really use. The other ones, after you start getting into E, F, and G, they're just some really interesting colors. But I use mud quite a bit. The rust, of course, sand, but I also do use oil stain quite often too, because oil stain, even though it's not shiny, it still gives a more of a gray, a dark gray color, and works well for shadowing, shading. I'm just going to run these at a little bit of an angle because, again, they're going this when rainfall or whatever hits these panels, it's going to run at a different angle. David, how you doing, bud? David Suteja, did I say that right? I hope I didn't butcher that. I apologize. How's it going? Good to have you in. I don't believe I've ever had you join in, so nice to have you. If you go a little bit heavy on these, you can use some enamel thinner. You can remove it. Or because I have 2 ends here, so a lot of times I'll often use the other side as my blender. If I get a little too heavy, I can flip it over and just take some of that material away. And if you do get just a bit heavy, you can remove it. That's why it's good to start slow, because it's a lot easier to add more than it is to try to take it away. Weather and looking really good. Thank you, sir. We're only just beginning here. This is only like the first or second step. I've added, I did a lot of chipping to about half of the kit. I still got this whole side. I've got one whole side skirt I still got to do all the chipping on. I've got to do whatever chipping I'm going to do on the turret, and then maybe a little bit more on the body, but essentially the sides are really what's going to get most of this damage on the underside, the undercarriage, because of just the wheels and the tracks and everything else that's going on. It can be quite a bit. Everybody's pinging my phone. It's a good thing I turned it off. I just have it on vibrate. You can probably hear my phone going off. So these will actually run at a different angle because those are on the back side. I may even go back over this with a little bit of soot as well because of this color. This rust works really well on a brown. This is a little more of a gray, so it lights up a little bit brighter. So that's why I'm not going very heavy. I'm trying to keep it relatively light. We'll see what the soot looks like here in a sec. Or the oil stain, I should say. I think I'm going to go with oil stain. It's not as dark as the soot color, and it gives a little bit nicer blend with gray type colors and things. So is anybody working on anything while they're watching or listening to this show tonight? Or is it just everybody just watching? Get the mouse out of the way. Again, with this taper here, I'm going to kind of do it at an angle, not so much straight down because of the angle, those streaks are going to go in a different direction slightly. Phil Artiste Studios greeting from New York. Hey, how's it going from New York? Good to have you. City, always cool to catch you live. Nice. Thank you so much. Giovanni says it's second time ever I'm listening on the live stream and painting. Very cool. So Phil Artiste Studio coming from New York. Very cool. Good to see you. Thank you so much for joining in. I try to do this show every Wednesday at the same time, 6 p.m. Pacific. For you, it's a little bit later on the East Coast. But I was trying to do on weekends, and it just started getting in family and everything. I needed to change it up. That didn't last very long. I think I did 2 or 3 weeks on a Saturday, and I was just like, yeah, and my wife I need to spend time with her on the weekends and stuff. I got to spend time with family. So just became a midweek thing from there on. Now this is all a blending process too. This is just the first color, so I start getting a little bit heavier. It looks pretty good so far, but I'm going to use a few different colors, maybe at least two. I don't know if I'll need a third. But these are, the sides of the tank are going to be the thing that's going to be damaged the most. The sides and the underbelly, really. Those are the things that are constantly getting scratched, scraping up against things. Could be trees, branches, cars, who knows what. Whatever they're running into is going to damage the paint. Another thing to think about, I talked about this last week, was in terms of scale, is making sure that the type of chipping you're doing or the type of weathering you're doing is in scale to the kit that you're building. When you get a 1/100 scale Gundam kit, a small chip, a tiny chip, might be the size of a basketball if it was in real life. So you want to make sure you're not doing these massive chips or too much of it. It can easily get too heavy if you keep, going at it. I was sharing my experience last week about this. I had a Freedom Gundam it was the first time trying any kind of chipping, and I thought I had everything kind of built in subsections so I could do like the legs and the arms and everything. So I did all this chipping, and I was doing individual pieces, and it looked really cool. And then I put everything together, and it was so overdone. I asked a friend, how you like it, and he's like, well, it looks good if he was doing jumping jacks in an asteroid field. Because there was chips on the inside of the legs, there was chips underneath everything. It was just everywhere, and it was so unrealistic. And it was my first attempt at that kind of thing, and it was just a disaster. So yeah, learned a lesson. Definitely learned a lesson there. So I'm going to switch over to oil stain here. I'm just going to do a little bit of an experiment. Let's see. I think this is my applicator for that. I'm about to spray Surfacer on the HD Cathedral. Very cool. So Giovanni's doing some painting. Nick says he's just sitting at the bench and watching. Very cool. Let's see, we already saw that one. Just second time ever. I'm about to spray some Surfacer on the HD Cathedral. Very cool. So are you using rattle can? Or are you using airbrush? I can't remember. You said you just got an airbrush, I thought, didn't you? Or just got a new compressor? Didn't you some of that last week? I think you did. Anyway. I'm going to add a little bit of oil stain here. This should give a slightly different color. And I can blend it. Again, I'll use the other side to kind of blend. I kind of like that because the oil stain is a little bit more of a gray, so it does tend to. It's quiet time from the small humans. Oh, that's right. You got newborns, relatively new ones. I say newborns, but they're not newborns anymore, right? But yeah, I get it. You take advantage of those times when you can. Totally understand that, Nick. Okay, I like the combination of this. So as I'm putting this on, it's you got a little bit of that rust color in there, but also a little bit of the gray. And some of this, it doesn't have to be rust. It just has to be just streaking because grime. Because as these, tanks, they sit outside in the weather, there's going to be rain streaking, that kind of stuff going on. So there will be just streaks that are there from dirt and grime. They don't have to be just, rust. So you see how this is starting to come together a little more now that I'm adding a little bit of that second color. And again, I'm using the edge mostly just to get a thinner line. And then I'm using the other side of the applicator to kind of blend it. It gets too much. I got a new compressor last week. My gorilla hands can't use spray cans. All right, that's good enough. That's good enough to put on screen. Yeah, you got big paws, huh? I know the feeling. I know exactly what you mean. That's funny. So another friend of mine, quite a few people still live in California, friends of mine, of course, but because I spent most of my life there. But another guy was cleaning out some of his backlog, and he had a Ravens 148 Valkyrie, Macross Valkyrie, and then 3 Mospita Genesis Climber kits. So I was like, all right, I'll buy it. So those are on the way. I will share those when they arrive. I think those are supposed to be here. Well, shipping says Friday, but you know how U.S. Postal is. not always reliable. They'll say this is your date, but then it always ends up showing, especially lately, seems to come in like a day or two later than originally forecast. So we'll see. If they show up Friday, great. Either way, I'll be able to share them next week. But yeah, there was 3 cyclone kits, and none of which that I have, and especially one of them is I can't remember the name off the top of my head. All of a sudden, the red one. That's one that seems to be hardest to find, and that was also in there. So I had to do that. All right. So I like the way this is looking. So I'm going to show this again. So as we're adding to this, now I can put this back on the tank real quick and see where I've got to blend these two together. Because in the back section, it's pretty much just by itself back here. So this is fine. There will be some on the top here I've got to do. I can see where I've got to add more. But this is the area where I'm going to have to blend some of these straight through and bring these two halves together. So, but I think so far, I like the way this is looking. And it's not terribly hard to do. It's really not hard at all to do this. It just takes a little bit of experimentation, a little bit of time. I'm really, a lot of people use the AK stuff, the liquid rust and stuff like that. And that's fine too. But I achieve quite a bit actually by just using these Weathering Masters. They really are versatile. After you use them for a little bit and practice, a little bit, it actually makes it quite nice. Kind of a go-to. I start with chipping and then I'll move on to adding this kind of stuff. You can almost use it like a pre-shade. Kind of go through and just highlight the lines, on the kit. This whole flat area here on the top, this is all going to be covered up, so I'm not worried about it. But everything from halfway forward all the way to the back, those are all exposed surfaces. So definitely going to put some here on the side. Finally back to watch. Hey Mike, what's up, Jason? Did you make it out to IPMS last week? I didn't. I had to work. But from what I hear, a local boy in Washington actually won Best Gundam this year instead of, I don't know, I didn't see much posting going on from the Oregon boys. So if they were there, I didn't see a lot. Missed you. Yeah, I missed you guys too. I really did. I was bummed that, but again, I had surgery this last year. I used up a lot of PTO for taking care of all this, other crap going on in life. And so I'm actually hoping this year I don't have to, or at least I'll have the day off, without having to having to ask for it. But I'm hoping that the time it comes around next year, I'll either have enough PTO left over or I won't need it, because this was the first year I would have had to ask for it. Every year so far, I've been lucky, and it's been on a day off already, so I didn't need to really worry about it too much. All right, I'm going to let this one sit because I think this is looking pretty decent as far as grimy. And I'm going to still be adding pigment and dirt. Okay, so there's going to be another layer on top of this, but I want to make sure the streaks on here were done first. So any dirt that goes over the top of that, I don't have to worry about trying to put the streaks on after I got all this accumulation of dirt. Hacker Sands official, how's it going? Good to have you coming in here from Twitch. WCGA on Discord is where most of the Gundam crew has shifted for many reasons. Oh, you mean what's WCGA, if you don't mind me asking, Jason? Is that West Coast something something? So they're no longer Oregon Gunpla or Oregon State or whatever. I don't remember. Or was it like gosh, I can't remember. I'm good. Smashed my finger a few days ago. Well, that's not fun. Was that from work, Hacker, or was that West Coast Gundam Alliance? Gunpla Alliance. Okay, very cool. The sleeves still exist. Okay, that's what I was trying to think of. So most of these people in that or in the sleeves went over to West Coast Gunpla Alliance. Is that what you're saying, Jay? Sorry about your finger. Hopefully it doesn't affect your model building, your hobby. But if it does, I get it. It sucks working with injuries. But when you get my age, you wake up injured half the time. Right, George? I know he's probably still there. All right, let me move over to this again. So I did, with that piece that matches up here, I have some chipping on here, so I can do a little bit of that weathering on this side piece. I'm not going to do the exhaust yet. I've still got to do the bluing on the nozzles or on the end. But I think I can at least get some of the sides done before I close this all up. I obviously got to put the wheels and the tracks in, but I also got to do a lot of dirt and pigments and stuff down in between the wheels and stuff here. So taking out a drive shaft. Oh, yeah, that'll do it. Yeah, I've been in the business 33 years. Started at Honda for 2 years. Met my wife, moved out near her. Couldn't find any Honda work. Ended up at Mitsubishi for 14 years. Just pulling this cable back off. Then ended up at Toyota and Lexus for another almost 14 years. So yeah, long time in the business, and it's slowly killing me. I'm telling you. All right, I'm going to start with rust again. I'll try to make this visible for everybody to see here. Oh, I can't remember the question I asked, Jason. That was most of the guys left. So you said they left for various reasons. Do I dare ask what's going on? Did the guys come up to IPMS though? The same guys make it up there, I guess is what I'm saying. That I saw say last year. That would be a shame if they didn't make it up for whatever reason. Private message about that. No worries. I get it. So along here too, this is something I was thinking about when I was talking about, where chipping would be. This is an actual service panel right here. You can see the outline from the panel line, and then of course there's hinges, and it looks like these might be the hinges. This might be a latch or something. So this is made to open. So again, right along that seam, I put a little bit of chipping, really very small, but in those areas where opening and closing those things would rub together, and maybe chip the paint a little bit, scratch it, whatever. So it's just something to think about when you are doing any kind of weathering like this, is to try to think about what would be real world, what would look good in real world as far as the way this is. Now, I'm not putting too much rust on here. Again, most of those most of the soot and stuff was on that lower panel, but I'm going to, oops, where'd my, I guess I moved it back over there. So I'm going to go back to the oil stain one, and I'm going to add a little bit more discoloration here just to blend this all together. And then I'll put that side piece back on, and we can kind of see what it looks like together and see if I've got to add a little more to either the top or the bottom piece there. The ones that Build and Paint did make it. Oh, good. That's good. Yeah, I saw the Best in Show. That was just Best Gundam, then, wasn't it? That blue Zeta. I sent George a picture of it. He never responded. I know that's a shock. George never responds to anybody. Now it's even harder to see him because most of the time I used to get a notification when he was on Instagram. Now he's on YouTube every morning. I don't see the notification, and a lot of times I'm just getting ready for work and I don't always see it. All right, so now after adding a little bit to the top, now that looks pretty good. I like the way this blends. So you can see some of this stuff goes into the step here, and some of it falls into these other areas. So, yeah, so far so good. I think I can add a little bit more right in this area here. Oops, that's my blend side. Just to kind of bring those two halves together. Yeah, I like that. Elliot won that best kit of show. Super cool to see a Gundam win that. So that was Best in Show, because I thought it said Best Gundam, but then I thought I saw a plaque that said Best in Show. So he won the whole thing. Oh, the tank looks amazing. Thanks, Jason. I appreciate that. It's getting there. For those that may not have seen this so far, I do have fiber optics in this, and I will, since there's a few people that are either new or here for the first time in a while. So there's the headlights with the lights on. I've got a little 3-volt battery, single LED, 4 strands of 2mm fiber optic. You can actually see, I don't know how much dark it'll be, but I can turn the lights out here above me so you can see the headlights. So yeah, I like it. I like that part. Oh, come on out. Can't get my battery out. I made the cord just long enough so I could pop it out from the top, but serviceable. Just take the turret off and get to the battery. Now we're sticking with weathering here. All right, so this looks pretty good. When I add a little bit to the exhaust here, that will completely blend these panels together. Yeah, it will look really, really nice. And then, again, once I get the tracks and the wheels on, I've got to add some dirt and stuff to the wheels, but I can put the wheels on first and then dusty those up. Now, the tracks are all rubber. Okay, so here's one of the tracks. There are actually 4 pieces. Each one is held together, 2 per side. Okay, and then there's a metal pin that went in between that actually joins the 2 tracks together. You can see where the pin is. You can kind of see because the track's got that sharp end to it. So I was trying to figure out, what am I going to do? Am I going to try to paint these or what? I don't think I'm going to paint them. I think what I'm going to do, I have some track wash, and I'm going to use the wash to get in there and also some pigments and stuff to actually dirty it up. And then what I'll do is go back over on the pads here, the pads that would actually be the rubber pads, take a Q-tip with, I've got these Daiso Q-tips here. These things I love the most because one side's got the pointed end and then the regular end. They're great. They don't leave a lot of lint behind. They do get shredded over time, but they're not as bad as like a regular Q-tip. But then what I'll do is take some enamel thinner and just go over each one of these pads and take the dirt off the pad just to kind of give those a little bit of color separation, I guess, because the rubber being on the pavement or whatever would actually still be black. It wouldn't be necessarily really dirty, unlike the bits and pieces in between the tracks. All those, the dirt and stuff's going to collect in those tracks, but where you've got that friction material on the ground, those are going to be kind of rubbed clean. So that's what that's my idea, and we'll see if that works. I do have one of the that's engine oil. One of the liquids I have here, like this is AK track wash, and it's a good starting point because it's kind of a dark brown. And then I've got another lighter one. This is let's see, that's fuel stains. Might still be in my bin. I've got more than just what's on here on the table. I've got another basket with a bunch of stuff, but I got a lighter one that dries and looks like dust. It's still a liquid, but when you put it on there with a brush, whatever, and once it dries, it looks just like a light sandy dust. So I could do that and give the dirt and stuff and grime in between the tracks, and then like I said, clean those pads off, and that will hopefully look as realistic as possible there. So I think it looks pretty good for the side anyway. And then we'll continue. I'm going to add a few more streaks here. Again, these were anything would wash off. You want to go in that direction. So on this top fender, because of the angle here, my streaks are going to go in this direction. In the front, they'll go down toward the front. Not so much up here. This will just be a collection of dust and dirt. And then of course on these flat areas too. So I can actually do. Here's what I can do. Let's see if I got chips on the exhaust here. Yeah. So I was showing this earlier. I did a little bit of bluing on the exhaust nozzles and a little bit of sepia, like a burnt orange. It's like a sepia behind that. So, but I did do chipping along the top because again, these have non-slip panels on top, so there will be crew stepping on here. So on this back edge, you can see some light chipping there. So there's going to be some streaking going down there, and that's what I'll do next. I'm just going to take this out of the way. Whoops, lost my side piece. I set it down a little too hard. We'll just take this back over here. All right. So I'm going to only do a little bit of rust, not much, and then I'll use the rest will be oil stain. So I'm just going to give a little bit of light color here. That's inside, this is outside, so I'll do this while I'm at it. All right. Go a little bit more. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to move back over to the other color here and just blend this together. Do the same on the side. And again, this is on the inside, so we're not going to see anything there. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. So this is going to go on right back here. Okay, yeah, so now you see where this stops. Normally I would continue these on, but the side piece is actually going to cover all that up, because as this goes on, none of that is going to be exposed. So I don't have to worry about this whole side piece here at all. That will all be covered up. Nor do I have to worry about all this up here. Just the front. That's all it's going to be exposed. So I guess what I could do, these fenders are now glued in place. Probably would have benefited from not doing that, by trying to weather them while they were loose. It would have been easier, but I did glue them down. Yeah, they're definitely not coming off, because then I could have run the streaks, down the sides that would have gone, behind these panels. I think I can get away with just using pigment and stuff like other things like that to make up for it. All right. Second, folks. Oh, nice. I didn't see all your messages, Jason, but that's cool. That's awesome. I'll check them out later once the show is over. Yep. All right. I got about another 30 minutes almost. Okay. I guess I could do... No, I gotta wait. I gotta finish the chipping back there. So let's see where we're at. I may have to start chipping again. Didn't want to bore anybody with it, but because it is kind of just tedious work. Actually, what I'll do is I will take this exhaust piece off. And I'll do some of that streaking on it real quick. Okay. So first off, I'm going to do the bluing. Now this is hot metal blue, and it's just real light. It doesn't take much to light this up, and I'm just trying to just blue the tips of these just a little bit. And then I'll use a little bit of the sepia, which is this color. It says burnt metal orange, I think, or red, but it's really just a sepia. Okay, so I'm just, if we go a little heavy on the blue, just use the other end and lighten it up, take a little bit of that material off. All right, now I've got this one for sepia here, so I'm just gonna real light and just go right behind that blue, because as metal gets hot, it changes colors from, especially exhaust pipes and stuff, it changes colors. As you get closer to the tip, it'll turn blue more, but the right behind that will be that orange kind of. I'm just blending this to make sure that they look about the same. Yeah, we're good. All right. Might add just a tiny bit more blue here. Some of it rubbed off when I did the red. All right. Now I'm going to go soot as well. Soot's going to be for the actual vent itself. Okay. Now we can go to I need to do this one. This is for the streaks now. So we're going to do the same thing we did on the other side. Just going to run these down over those little chips. And then down the side as well. Getting there. Again, it's easier to add a little more than it is to try to take it off, but if you don't seal it first, you can go back with some enamel thinner or something and Q-tip, and it should take it right off. All right, that's enough of that. Now I'll add a little bit of that oil stain. That looks good. Oops, I forgot I gotta go down the side here too. Whoop, wrong one. This one. Almost got the wrong color. You can buy replacement applicators, you can get the actual Tamiya ones, but it's just, these are nice. They're small and compact, and they work. It's like a generic makeup applicator, slightly larger than the original. Like this is the one that comes with them. I have a little brush on one end applicator, but I mean, it's not much bigger than the original one. The only difference is it has that little brush on it, but all right, now we go this one. Okay, looks pretty good. Now I'm going to pop this back on so you can see with that side skirt on there, side armor. Let's see how that looks with this now. All right, so it looks pretty good the way that blends. I think it blends quite nicely between these four pieces, and it goes behind this bracket here, because if there was no actual attachment there, those, that streaking grime or whatever would go underneath that, and so that looks fine. And you got a little bit of bluing there on the exhaust, which looks nice, works well. I need to take a little bit of that off. A little bit of that orange, a little too much. There we go. So far, so good. I think that's come along nice. I need to add a little bit right here. Just kind of extending these lines down the bottom as well. That's another thing I can do. Just kind of go over the edge of this. It just kind of highlights that edge slightly. This gives a little bit of almost like a pre-shade, but a post-shade. Yeah, I like that. Okay. So far, so good. Now, let's see, what can we do next other than actual chipping here? I haven't done any chipping to that other side piece yet. So to give you an idea, this is before and after. Quite noticeable difference. Yeah, all right. Let's see, where can we go from here? I guess I can start doing the top of this fender. I'm going to take this exhaust piece back off, just so I can do this back fender here. I got a little bit of chipping on the hinge, so that is going to leave a little bit for whatever streaking down the back here. Just keeping an eye on the chat. Sorry guys, I was trying to make sure I didn't miss anything. Doesn't look like anybody's doing a whole lot of talking, so. Okay, that should finish off that. So now we put this back on. Yeah, there we go. Now we got a little bit of color coming out from underneath the exhaust. That's another reason why I didn't glue these down yet, was because I wanted to make sure I could fully weather those underneath, and then that way this will blend. It'll blend quite nicely with what is, there. That way you don't have these lines that start out here and then, it goes fully under that piece is what I wanted. That's what I was kind of hoping, kind of wishing I didn't glue these on yet, because I would have been able to do a lot of this streaking down. It's going to take a little bit of extra effort, but it was necessary. I mean, at the time I was trying to get all the fiber optics and everything sealed in place, so it is what it is. So I can't do anything under here until I finish chipping. And then I got to do mostly just pigments and things to dust this, make it really dusty, dirty. Then I can put the wheels and tracks on. Miss anybody's? Nope, nobody's chatting. Okay, we're all good. All right, I think I'll start. Like I said, I think I'll just grab my, where is it? This one. And just do a little bit of streaking on the top of this fender. Not going to be too terrible, not too much, because there's not a lot of chipping. Just in a couple of areas. Right here. See. here. Just grabbing the edge of that front fender there. Now, here's the tricky part, because I got to go down the side here, but as I can make up for where I can't get all the way down to the very, very bottom, I'll make up for it with pigment. I will do parts that I can see. I don't need to go too dark, just a tiny bit of color. Especially where those cables are going to be scratching, there's going to be chipping there. I've already done the chipping, so there's going to be some rust on there as well, just a little bit. All right, now back to the oil stain. That's looking quite nice. I'm just using the oil stain too, just to kind of highlight the edge a little bit, just to darken it slightly. All right. Yeah, it's come along nice. So yesterday was kind of exciting on the drive home. For those that don't know me, I live out in kind of out in the not in the sticks, but we're not in the big city, you know, and we're close to Seattle, about 30 minutes away, but we're not like right in the thick of the city. We're on an outskirt town anyway. So I was about 5 minutes from getting to the house and kind of coming up to a stoplight where there is a market and stuff like that, and we're all just kind of waiting. And all of a sudden, 3 police cars come screaming by, lights, sirens, everything, fly by us and keep on going into town. It's like, wow, what's going on? So then I start getting up there closer to where I'm closer into town, and I'm looking down some of the side streets just trying to see where these police cars might have gone. You know, you still don't know what's going on. And then start getting closer to this bar and grill called Bubba's Roadhouse. And I see a bunch of people standing outside, and I'm thinking, whoa, something happened at Bubba's. What's going on? As I get closer, I start to see what looked like smoke. And so I thought, gosh, is the place on fire? What's going on? And people are all standing outside because, from what I can gather, is they were evacuated. So as I get to the point where I'm starting to pass the restaurant, I notice this white cloud coming out from the back of the building, or the side, or really the side of the building. It's also where parking is for most of the customers. And then I realize as I pass that the white cloud I'm looking at is propane. Somebody backed into. They have these external tanks outside where they, obviously the restaurant, the kitchen runs off of propane, everything. And so they got these two large external tanks, refillable tanks, and it's also where the lines or whatever that go into the restaurant. But somebody backed up and hit the line and broke it, so it was venting straight up propane. As I was driving past, I'm thinking, man, I've been in a situation where propane almost lit off. I was in a cloud of it at one point. I was on a forklift and ruptured the tank on a forklift, the actual fuel tank. The external tanks that you can change out on the forklift. And fortunately, obviously, I didn't go up in a plume of fire and smoke, but I guess they got it. It looks like they're open today and everything. Everything's back to normal, but it was kind of just like, wow. We could hear sirens after that, and they had to shut down the highway for a little bit, basically in a 3-block radius. I guess I had to show. I didn't go down there and check it out, but it took them a while. I'm sure that they might have just had to let it completely vent, just because there's no way to shut it off at that point. It's in a tank that's just exposed, when the line's open, so it's just blowing out everywhere anyway. So, all right, so far so good. I can only work on the areas that I know I've finished, but if I do have to add a little more chipping, I can go in and do that and then just go back over it with the pastels. But so this is basically, obviously I don't have any chipping done or any weathering done to the turret yet. But I am going to put this back on just kind of temporarily so we can kind of see what this whole thing looks like. This is installed correctly, it will stay on. There we go. Just got to fit in between these little brackets. All right. I've also got to fix that stowage. That one post on the back that keeps popping off. It's really not a very good connection. So, yeah, you see I still got quite a bit to go. And it's a good thing to look at this, too. Now with the turret on, there's going to be a lot of collection under here. I think that's going to be important to make that area look darker where the turret, especially where the turret pivots, but also just that area that around it, that rounded, curved surface area where everything underneath is going to be coated pretty good with dirt accumulation, things like that. I think so far I like what I'm seeing as this is getting dirtier and dirtier. But it is a big tank. For 1/35 scale, it's pretty huge. I still got the figures. I've still got to put together. I've still got to paint them. So that we'll get to those after the main tank is done. Now, these pastels will rub off on your fingers, so if you've never used them before, just keep that in mind. You want to keep handling it. You will want to shoot this with done spraying white surfacer. Huh? All right. You may want to do a quick, just a flat coat over it when you're finished, just to seal everything so as it doesn't rub off as you're handling it. But what I will do with the top here, there's no real rust or anything here because there's no chipping, but just some on the edge. Is this will have, I'll use pigment and stuff like that to get into these grooves, and I'll also use a fixer. I have some pigment fixer, which is this stuff right here. I've got a couple bottles of this, and it's an enamel fluid, but it's just made to make the dry pigments stick, and then of course when they dry flat. But it's a good way to add a lot of grime if you're just trying to do with pigments only. Fuzzy right here. Sometimes you get those when little lint left behind from one of the Q-tips or something. I start finding little hairs every now and then, so I gotta periodically go through and just grab them with a pair of tweezers. All right, folks, let's start wrapping things up here. It's getting close to quitting time. I'm going to close these up. Now, these are like makeup applicators. I think they'll dry out if you leave them open, so I like to close everything up when I'm done. Make sure I've got nothing left open, because I've seen some people that have these and they broke and shattered. Either they dropped it or did something. It's created a mess, so it's just best to keep everything good to go. All right, so bring this back over on here. Take the magnifiers off so I can see again. All right. So Giovanni's on spraying. Let me go down the list here. I'm going to bring it back up to this view here so you can see most of the bench. Still got a ways to go. And again, when I get those other kits in this week, hopefully I will share those next week. We'll see where they go or when I can build those or whatever. But I got to do a commission after this, so we shall see. All right. So let me go down the list here and bring it back up. Look at my face. All right. Whoa. Way back there. Well, I got to make an adjustment. Seems like, unless my chair's lower, seems like I'm low on the screen. Let me see if I can raise my chair. Yeah, a little bit. Not really. Not much. All right. So let's go back to the top here. Start over. First in was Nick. Hey, Nick, thanks again. And then old school Mr. George. Old school Gunpla was in after that. Giovanni. Thank you so much. Ken, good to see you again as always. I'll see you at work tomorrow probably. Moving on down, we got David. And let's see, who else? Phil, that's right, Phil Artista Studio. Thank you again for joining in. Thank you so much. First time, I think, for you as well. And then we also had Jason, Giovanni, of course. Rory, I missed one. Rory Holler Turtle RC Racing. Wow, thank you for sharing. Well, thank you, sir, for joining, whoever that is. I missed that one. I apologize. We were in the middle of a conversation at the time you popped in. We had Hacker Sands official from Twitch, and pretty sure that was it. Jason Giovanni. Yep, that's it. So, hey, guys, thanks you so much again for joining in. Appreciate each and every one of you that hangs out with me when we do these projects together. It's all about supporting the hobby, promoting the hobby, and sharing our techniques and our experience and stuff like that. So we're going to keep plugging away. Things are getting busy in the wine household, so I'm going to keep trying to do as much as I can here during the week to kind of give. So there's a little bit fresher content each week, but sometimes like this week I didn't get a whole lot done. There's just a lot of chipping to do. So That's going to be primarily where I'm at this week too. Just trying to get the initial chipping done and the weathering, so I can start the other weathering layers, the process there. Other than that, let's see. Always, tell your friends, like and subscribe, please. Support the channel. Don't worry about the Facebook page as much anymore. It seems like Facebook is deleting all the videos that are older than 30 days. So it's kind of it's I don't know why they're doing it. It's dumb to me. So if you miss anything, you can find it here on the YouTube channel. Just do it there. Nick says, later, fellas. So thanks, Nick. Thanks again. And anyway, we will catch you guys next time. And we're going to keep plugging away. Still haven't decided what kind of a base yet, or if we're going to add that Ramba Ryle set. We might put the Zaku head on there somewhere. We'll see. We're going to figure that out as time goes on. First, I got to get through this tank first, and that's the big project. So, yeah. Anywho, see you guys next time. Thanks again. Love each and every one of you. Thank you so much.